Okay. We have our little audience today. We have our small, intimate 10 o'clock p.m. on a Saturday night audience today. And everybody here chose to learn a little bit of music theory and stuff instead of partying with everybody else. I appreciate it. You're very kind. I'm really excited to be here. Welcome to Mega Man 251, composing for 200X. Does anybody get that joke? Okay, a couple people did. All right. Very good. I was going to say, you'll understand it by the end of this, and then I was like, but there aren't any of those in the soundtrack. Okay, so never mind. Okay, so my name is Daniel Lopatka. I'm a visiting lecturer at University of Illinois, Chicago, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you guys. I'm usually here doing stuff on Final Fantasy music, and I'm thrilled to be here doing stuff on Mega Man music because, man, it just goes along with the theme, right? It's going to be so much fun. So I was thinking a lot about this. Like, I teach digital music composition as one of the things at UIC, and one of the things I work on with those students is writing music in different genres, or trying to write music that sounds like a composer in hopes to, analyze it and learn a little bit about how it works. And if I want to go make music in that style, how could I do that, right? So my first question before we jump into everything is, how many of y'all are musicians in here? Let's start with that. Okay, decent, cool. Of the musicians, or I guess it doesn't have to be of the musicians, but who composes music? Okay, cool, wonderful. And who is just really interested in this topic and they're not necessarily a musician? Wonderful, love that. So I always try to explain things in such a way where we're going to go through everything in as slow as way as possible and make as much sense as it possibly can and be as accessible as it possibly can. Because I don't really see a point in just using music theory terms for the sake of, sounding very academic and everything. So we're going to try to make this as accessible to everyone as I possibly can. Well, wonderful. Well, at the end of this, hopefully you'll just know a bit more about how specifically this music is constructed, but you'll also know a bit about how most music is constructed. And I'll talk a lot about, as we're doing this, I'll talk a lot about how these things that we're talking about relate not only to Mega Man music, but to a bunch of other stuff you may be into as well. So let's jump into this. So the first thing that I think is important to talk about is the structure of the music. So when I was looking up this music on YouTube and I pulled up the soundtrack and I turned on one of the level themes, I was like, oh, this music is about 2 or so minutes long. So let's just for a second, let's just listen to a piece of music from this game, and let's talk a little bit about what's actually going on. So 1 second. We're going to listen to a little bit of a tune called Quick Man. Ooh, great tune. Let's listen a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to pause it right there. Now, something just happened. We just listened to about a minute or so of this music, but something just happened. What happened? Can anybody point to what happened in the structure of the music? Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. There, you're jumping slightly ahead of me, and we're so much there. That's great. Okay, but something even more basic happened. Yeah. Yes, it looped. Exactly, it looped. So a lot of this music from this, especially from this era, I mean, I would say almost all video game music loops. A good hefty chunk of it does. But the interesting thing here is that it loops, and the music from this game, all of it pretty much, is only about 40 seconds long. Basically all the tunes are only about 40 seconds long, and they keep looping. And that's one of the things that I always talk about with students is that, like, this music is so cool because you have to write it in such a way, or it was written in such a way to be looped over and over and over and not get, super annoying, right? And a lot of times when I bring that up to people, I ask them, like, well, why doesn't it get annoying? And the number one answer is usually like, well, it's really catchy. And that's true. When we will talk about that. But there's more going on than it's just catchy. So the other number I have up here where it says 24 bars. So if we were to count like that tune, 1, 2, 3, 4, if each measure, those would be measures or bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, etc. There would be 24 of them before it looped back around. So another word for structure that we like to use in music theory world is form. And form is the organization of different sections in a piece of music. That's all it is. Organization of different sections in a piece of music. So, for example, if you've ever listened to a pop song, as we're talking about pop music, if you ever listen to a pop song, you may have recognized that there's usually a verse, followed by perhaps a pre-chorus, and then a chorus, right? And then those loop back around in some capacity, right? You guys have probably all experienced this. Now, that's the same thing, except when we are talking about, in music academic world, instead of saying verse, pre-chorus, chorus, etc., we're going to label the sections by letter names. So we're going to say like A, B, C, D, or etc., whatever they are. And what we're going to do is we're going to give musically similar sections the same letter. Okay? So let's take a look at QuickMan a little bit more in depth now. So now we know that it's a 40-second long thing. We know that it loops back around. And it actually has 3 distinct sections. So let's look at that. So the first section, we're going to call it A, and it has 8 bars. So let's take a listen to the first section, the A section of QuickMan. That's it. That's the A section. Okay? That was 8 bars. So then there's going to be a new section of music, and it's going to sound different than what we just heard. And it's going to be the B section, and that's also going to be 8 bars. So let's listen to that one. So here's just the B section. That's it. That's the B section. Okay, cool. And as you're probably guessing, there's a C section, and that one is also 8 bars, filling out our 24-bar, about 40-second long tune. So let's just listen to that, so we know how this all functions together, because we're going to come back to this track a couple times over the course of this panel. So here's the C section, also 8 bars. Oops. Oh my gosh. What the hell? Why? There we go. Okay, so hopefully you guys are seeing that those 3 sound quite different, right? And that's going to be something that we're looking at in our next bit, because that's one of the things that is going to make it not super annoying to listen to music that loops over and over and over again. If it was the same section, like think of your favorite song, even if you love like the chorus of it so much, just imagine hearing the chorus over and over and over and over and over. It would be mind-numbing. You wouldn't enjoy it, right? And it's the same thing here. Like you have to have this diversity. You have to have these contrasts in order to make the music interesting, and work for having it looped over and over. So the other big thing, or the next big related thing we have to talk about here, is texture. Texture. So texture, in simple terms, is how musical elements combine and change over time. How musical elements combine and change over time. And so what I mean there is instruments, dynamics, the number of chords, notes, all of those types of things. Those all are combining to create the texture of a piece of music, right? Now, we're going to look back at Quick Man, and we're going to listen to those three again, but now we're going to be listening more about, for the texture. Now, the interesting thing for NES games like Mega Man 2, is that there are only 4 sound channels. At any given time, you're only going to hear 4 different things. You're going to hear typically like 2 for melody, 1 or 2 for or a melody and a harmony, or a melody and a like something that's kind of like a repeated line that's going on in the background. They do a bunch of stuff like that over the soundtrack. You'll have one that's for a bass line, and you'll have one that's a noise channel that's going to be used for like percussion and things like that. And that's really it. And why I love looking at this music when discussing texture is that there's only really 4 things that can be going on at any point in time. Rather than if we were listening to like, the Expedition 33 soundtrack and everything's this huge orchestra and everything, and there's so many things that are going on, and we could be, talking about all of those, which is awesome. But if you've never thought about texture before, it's this is going to be much more easily understood. So let's look back. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate it. If people have questions, I can give you things. Excellent. Okay. So let's look at the textural changes in this piece of music. So we'll look at them isolated again, and then we'll listen to the whole thing together, and we'll see if we can hear those textural changes. So first, in the A section, there is a bass line that you'll hear kind of on the bottom. You'll hear a percussion part. It's pretty standard, just kind of a simple percussion part. And then you're going to hear 2 interlocking melodic lines. They kind of fit together they interlock. They fit together to make one line. So let's just listen back to the A section of Quick Man, if this plays correctly for me. So the bass is playing do 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 do, right? And then there's that noise channel of that, all of that, and that's making the percussion part. And then we have those those 2 channels working together. So let's just listen to that again. This is one of those ones where I almost would have liked to have written it out, but at the same time, it's just better for your ear training to hear what's going on. Anyway, let's listen again. Okay. Could you guys kind of hear those different things going on? Okay. Cool. Great. So then let's see. So then we get to the B section. And the bass and the percussion is staying pretty much the same. They're not really doing anything different. But now one of those melody channels is changing to the melody. Right? And then there's this little repeating line that's going on in the background. So let's listen to the B section now and see if we can hear that textural change. Yes? Can we hear that? A little bit? Okay, cool. And don't worry if you can't hear everything. If you can at least hear that those two sections sound different, that's a great start. Okay? And then lastly, in our C section, we have the bass line, which changes a little bit. It gets a lot more active. And when I say active, I mean like more notes, essentially. Let's just go with that. More notes, a more active bass line. The percussion line stays the same. And now the melody is going to be harmonized. That is, they're going to be playing different notes, but they're going to be in harmony. I assume many of you know what harmony means, like when you hear two singers sing together and stuff like that. I'm going to hope. Okay. Let's see. So let's listen to the C section. Oh my God! Why is it doing that? I don't understand. Clearly, I have to iTunes, man, killing me. Let's try this. Okay, cool. And you guys could hear that I think the clearest part of that is that harmonized melody that's going on. Okay, so now that we know that, let's just listen to those three sections just all together and see if we can hear that textural change that's going on. And the big thing here, is, I mentioned it before, is thinking about the contrasts. Because those contrasts are what create intrigue. And this isn't just for Mega Man music. We could be looking at a Taylor Swift song and we'd hear contrasts creating intrigue. It's all the same thing. So for those of you who are budding composers, contrasts, really, really good thing to do. Okay? Let's listen to this one more time, and then we'll move on to some new territory. Okay. We're in that A section. Going to the B. Back at A, because we're looping back around. Cool? Okay, making sense? Great. Love it. All right, so let's go to, we talked about structure, we talked about texture. Let's talk about another big thing it's a big important thing here. And it's called syncopation. Syncopation. Who's heard that term before? Good chunk of people? Okay, great. It's actually a very easy concept. It's a much more confusing name than it is the concept. So, syncopation just means that you're accenting a weak beat. And for you saying, well, I don't know what a strong beat is, so how could I accent a weak beat? I don't know what that means. Well, the pulse that we tap our foot to, those are the strong beats. Okay? So, for example, if we were to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we were to clap just on the beat with our foot, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right? There's no syncopation there. We're just playing the strong beats. Right? Now, notes that fall between the strong beats are weak. Notes that fall between the strong beats are weak, because we know what the strong beats are, and anything that's between those is what's considered a weak beat. So when we accent those weak beats, we're creating syncopation. So let's do a little simple exercise together. So let's first just clap on the strong beat. Okay? So 1, 2, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, beautiful. That's great. So we're not doing any syncopation right there. We're just playing on the strong beats. Now, if we wanted to add syncopation, let's just do this. We're going to do, so I'm tapping my foot here. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go, and 4. Oh, it's grooving so much harder now, right? So let's just try that together. So we're going to go on the, what we call the offbeat, or the ands. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. That's where we're going to clap. Okay, so tap your foot. 1. Tap your foot there. 1, 2, 3. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3. Woohoo! Now, that's so much groovier, right? Like when we were clapping on just the strong beats, like, yeah, that's fine. That's cool. But when we clap on the offbeat, when we're accenting the ands, when we're syncopating, oh, it adds so much more groove to it, right? So, we're going to listen to the title theme, which I think I briefly played a little bit before. We're going to listen to the title theme, and we're specifically going to look at the A section. And now you all know what A section means, right? Essentially, we're going to listen to the beginning. Okay, so let's listen. We're just going to listen to it a little bit, and then we'll actually like analyze it and see what's going on. So, I've learned my lesson. I'm going to go this way. All right, here we go. Okay, also, did you guys notice how it repeated the A section? It played the same thing again, and then it went somewhere new, and that new section would be the B section? Okay, cool. We're all clear. Great. Okay, so let's talk about this one a bit. So this is the title theme. This is the first little bit of it just written out. And what I want you guys to see here are these little bits that I have circled here, or boxed out. And these, right, you can see, let's see, can I give you the little, can I get a laser pointer? Is this the laser pointer? Yes, okay. You see, if you see where I have the plus signs, those would be those ands that we were talking about, right? When we were saying the offbeat on the and. So you can see a lot of those, right? So if we were to, I'll clap this a little bit for you. And I'm just going to clap it like around here. The first rhythm is kind of fast, so apologize if I kind of messed that up. But a good way to think about this is that if you're clapping or you're hearing a beat that's being played that's not with your foot, when you're tapping your foot, that's something that's syncopated, right? So if I were to slow this down, da 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 2, 3, da 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 You guys see that? How I was clapping against my foot, and therefore we had something that's syncopated, right? So I just want to, so I did this little piano version of this that I thought might be kind of fun. I'm just going to introduce this is the piano version, just the same thing that you just heard, and this is what's written up here. So this is going to be the same speed that we heard before. Here it goes, all those ands, yep. Okay, so that's syncopated, right? Now I thought, well, just to kind of drive the point home, what if we took that and we made it not syncopated? Okay? So I changed it how it's written out. And you can see here that these ones that were originally on the ands, I moved them to being just on the beat, on 3, 4, 1, right? On the beat 3, on beat 4, on beat 1, instead of on the and of 3 and the and of 4. Right? Okay, making sense? So let's just hear how this sounds. So I'm going to go back to my little piano version of this, but this is going to be this version of this song with no syncopation. And let's just see how that changes things. Okay. How did that feel? Cursed? Wait, you said cursed? Was that what I heard? Cursed is a good word for it. It kind of has this like marching quality now. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh yeah, it's very jarring. It feels way worse, right? It's like pretty bad, right? So, like, it would be weird. Like, guys, it'd be weird to remove the syncopation from this game, or try to write something that try to write something that sounds like Mega Man but not have it be syncopated, right? Like, that'd be super weird. Wouldn't feel good, right? We just saw that. It'd be really weird if like Nintendo decided to like re-release this game and do a version of it where they removed syncopation from the music. Like, that would be really weird, right? Yeah, so there's a game. The original was released in 1988. And then there was a 16-bit remaster for the Genesis. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Maybe a couple people? Oh, nobody. Oh, okay, a couple people know a little bit what I'm talking about. So it's called Mega Man: The Wily Wars, which I've dubbed the Wars on Syncopation. Now this game is really interesting because like. It was one of those things. I was like looking up versions of these songs on YouTube, and I saw like, oh, there's like this remastered version of the game. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I turn it on, and I thought like I was just mishearing. I was like, this has to be like a fan-made thing, right? Like, this had to be like somebody who just didn't do a good job like transcribing it or something. But no. This is the official thing. And what I thought was so interesting is after I heard it, I started looking up like reviews of this thing. And I'm going to show you why I'm so, in just a moment, I'm going to show you why this is so jarring to me. But like, this was great because I read up some reviews from like closer to that time. And this one a little while later, but I thought this review was great. In it they said, every single tune from the 3 games. Oh, by the way, it's a remaster of 1, 2, and 3. Just so you guys know. It's pretty cool, and the graphics are really cool. But anyway. So, every single tune from the 3 games is present and accounted for. So that's a good start, but the problem was that most of the remixes lack something. This is from Robert Menace of Sega16.com. And I can tell you what they lack. They lack syncopation. That's the problem. So, I don't just take my word for it. Let's look at this. So, we're going to look at one of my favorite tunes from this game. This is a tune called Metal Man. Great tune. And you can even tell, from those of you who can even read like a little bit of sheet music, you might be able to see that like the rhythms here are not your average rhythms. There's a whole lot of syncopation going on here. It's okay if you can't. We're gonna listen to it. We're gonna hear what's going on. But I've just took a couple and I just marked out, just like we did on the last one, where some of these notes are, or where some of these rhythms are, where the syncopated ones are. So here's beat 4. This happens on the E. By the way, we've been talking about like the ands, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? But you can also divide that even further and go 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So 1 E and a, 2 E and a. And so these things are happening on the E, they're very syncopated. Okay, so let's listen to a little bit of this so we can hear what I'm talking about. This is the melody of I think it's the B section of this tune. A section? No, I think there's an intro. We'll hear it again. Okay, this is Metal Man. This is the original version. Okay, so da 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 da. Right? So I'm just gonna look at that. Da 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 da. Can you guys hear how I'm clapping against my foot right there? So we can say, oh, okay, so those are the syncopated things, right? So let's look at what they did for the Wily Wars version. So now you can already tell this rhythm looks a lot simpler than that rhythm, right? And we can see here that the original version, well, they took out some notes, which I just thought was weird. But you can even see, if you can just kind of look, like this one, for example, is hitting on the and they moved it to beat 3, right? This one is hitting on the and they moved it to beat 1. Guys can see that? This one is just kind of weird because they have one hit on the and one hit on the E of 1. Instead of just they kind of merged those two together into one hit, kind of. It's very strange. So let's take a listen to this Wily Wars version. That's such a hard thing for me to say. I'm really like concentrating whenever I say Wily Wars. Okay, here we go. Same tune, remastered. Da 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 da. Instead of let's go back. Like, how much more groovy is that? They literally removed the syncopation. That's what they did. That's why it feels weird. That's why reviewers are saying, there's something doesn't feel right about this music. Yeah, it doesn't feel right. It's terrible. And so it's a super strange thing. I don't know why they did this, but that's what they did. So, making sense? Any questions so far? Is this all good? Cool? Great. Love it. All right. So we just talked about syncopation. For those of you who are just joining us, we talked about syncopation, we talked about texture, we talked about form. So let's talk about another big aspect of this music that I think is really important, is the harmony. And now when I say harmony, I don't always mean just like two instruments playing together like in harmony, right? Harmony is one of those like music theory terms that's kind of broad and it means different things in different contexts. And in this situation, I'm talking about like the chords of the song. So thinking about it as like if you see a singer who plays guitar, they're probably playing the chords on the guitar and they're singing the melody, right? Making sense? Cool. So I'm gonna throw at you a couple of music theory academic words, but I'm gonna explain what they mean. So first one is diatonic. There's such a thing as diatonic harmony. So diatonic harmony it means that it only uses notes that are in the key. So for example, if you ever sat down at a piano, I imagine most people in here have sat down at a piano, and you may know that if I just play all the white keys, I'm in the key of C. And even if you just kind of mess around with all the white keys, it's kind of hard to make it sound bad. Like if you're just playing on the white keys, everything sounds pretty good. Because everything's in the same key, right? It's all in the key of C. Now, there's also this thing called chromatic harmony. And chromatic means that you're using notes from outside the key. So if you think back to sometime when you've played the piano, if you've ever played the piano and you're playing all the white keys, you're playing in the key of C, but all of a sudden you hit one of the black keys. It sounds a little off. It sounds it's unexpected. It takes you kind of out of the realm of that key that you were in. It's because what you just hit was something that was chromatic, something that was outside of the key. Rather than diatonic, everything is inside the key. Okay? So, there's a word, I don't know have any of you come to any of my Final Fantasy things? Anybody? Oh, a couple of you. Okay, cool. Welcome back. Thank you. Appreciate it. There's a word I like to use. Trademark. I use the word ERMs. I say there are ERMs. And ERMs are eyebrow-raising moments. So, an eyebrow-raising moment is when something happens that we didn't expect, right? We can talk about chromatic harmony. We can talk about all these cool things that go on. We can talk about all the syncopation. And a lot of times, all it comes down to is it's just something that we didn't expect to hear. That's really all it comes down to. And we can, use music theory to give a label to those things. But a lot of times I like to do this with my, especially my newer students, because they don't necessarily have all the language to explain the stuff. And it's like, there's not really a reason for me to talk over them. It's like, or above them, you know what I mean? It's like, let's just talk about the things that you didn't expect, and then we can understand why you didn't expect them. Okay, so we're going to hear a lot of eyebrow-raising moments, or ERMs, in a lot of this music. So let's look at the Woodman, as we just showed his picture. Let's look at Woodman's theme, which has some chromatic harmony. And to me, it has those eyebrow-raising moments. And I think you'll definitely hear them when we compare. You got to guess where I'm already going. If we remove some of those eyebrow-raising moments, how that will sound. Okay, so this tune there's some chromaticism in it. And I'm going to, let's listen to it just for a moment, and then I'll explain how this actually works. So let's listen to... Get out of here. Okay. Nobody wants that ever again. Okay, and let me just tell you that Wily Wars soundtrack, like, I picked something that was pretty egregious, but like that's the whole soundtrack. Like, go listen tonight to the whole soundtrack, especially if you already know like what's going on. It's horrendous. It could have been so good too. Like, anyway, let's listen to Woodman. Okay, so this is the original. This is the original from the game Woodman piece. Okay, so did anybody have any eyebrow-raising moment right there? I know I did. I don't know if anybody else did. Okay. Yeah, we're getting there. So, absolutely, you're right. Whoever said that, you're correct. But let's talk about why that is. So, this song is in the key of F sharp minor, and it has the notes F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, and E. So if we just play those notes, everything's going to sound pretty chill, right? Just kind of like we were talking about before, playing everything in the key of C and everything sounds fine. So let's talk about why this happens. So these letters, like F sharp M over here, for those of you who are not hip to like this kind of notation, that's telling us a chord to play. So if I was a guitarist, seeing F sharp little m would tell me to play F sharp minor. So that chord has 3 notes, and those notes are F sharp, A, and C sharp. And if we go back to our key signature here, if we go back to what notes are in the key, we can see there is an F sharp, there is an A, and there is a C sharp. Okay, so that's diatonic, right? It's a chord that fits in the key, right? But we go to this next chord, and you probably can already see where we're going. But this next chord is G, B, and D. Now, B and D are in the key, right? We can see that here's a B and here's a D. Okay, we can use those notes, that's fine. But we have a G natural here, and our key has a G sharp. So that is a note that is chromatic, and this is a chord that's chromatic. And when that happens, it has this kind of lifting effect. To me, it has sort of this lifting effect, and this eyebrow, truly lifting effect. So let's look at some of these other chords here. So then we have an E minor chord, which has the notes E, G, and B. And again, E and B are in the key. G is not. We then have this 4-note chord, a little bit more interesting. That's a C sharp 7 over E sharp, with C sharp, E sharp, G sharp, B. C sharp, G sharp, and B are all in the key, but E sharp is not. So it has this kind of surprising thing that happens there. And then there's an F sharp minor again, and lastly, an E major chord. So E, G sharp, and B. So let's just listen to a little kind of piano version of that. I think I made one, pretty sure. Yes, okay. So let's just listen to a little piano version of that and see if we can hear that lift that's happening when we hear that G that's going to be a little surprising. You guys feel that? Do you guys feel that? Those chromatic moments, that's what's giving it that lift. That's what's giving it that eyebrow-raising moment. That's that surprise. That's so cool. So, what if, folks? What if? What if we made it diatonic? What if we took out some of those chromatic notes? Let's just see how that would feel. So here, we got the same setup. We start on that F sharp minor chord as before. That's great. Cool. Great. And we're going to go to an E major chord instead of a G major chord because it has a G sharp in it and we want to keep in the key. We want to keep it diatonic, right? We're going to go to a B minor chord here because it's a B, a D, and an F sharp. And then we'll go to another E major chord replacing that C sharp 7. So we're getting rid of the stuff that makes it kind of, to me, feel exciting. Let's just see how that sounds. So let's jump back here. We're going to do another little piano version. And this is a diatonic version. Let's listen. Thoughts? It's very mid. That's great. But just to remind ourselves, let's just hear what the original sounds like. Well, let's do the original piano version, the chromatic version. Like, there's so much more drama in that, right? It's like it tells more of a story. The other one is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but does it have that same like excitement? I don't know. I don't think so, right? So using some chromatic harmony, using some eyebrow raising moments is something that if I'm trying to write music in this style, then I probably want to include some of that. Like if I just have everything straight up diatonic, that's not bad, but it doesn't really do that exciting thing that we're hearing in the original version. Okay? Cool. So let's talk about the thing that we very briefly touched on at the beginning. So catchy melodies. Because yes, of course, like that's one of the things that makes this fun. Catchy melodies. Like we can hear it over and over and over and over. And there's a reason why we're having an entire convention that's like based around this series, right? It's endured time. So let's talk about why the melodies are catchy. What we can think about when we're trying to write a catchy melody. So the first thing I like to think about is a motive. A motive. Not, no, never mind. So a motive in music theory world is just a short musical idea. That's all it is. It's just a fancy word for saying a short musical idea. Some people may know the word motif. That's another version of the same thing. And all it means is a short musical idea. So that can pertain to a rhythm, a melody, potentially a chord or chord progression. But it's a short musical idea. And we're going to see these in action in just a moment. Now, one of the things that you can do to help make your music catchier is you can repeat ideas. You can repeat motives, right? And that repetition is just going to make them feel catchier, right? You're going to hear them over and over. They're going to get ingrained in your brain. And the other thing you can do that we're gonna look at all this in just a second, so bear with me. The other thing that we're going to do is check out what's called a sequence. Now, a sequence is when you take a melodic motive, to take a melody, take a motive, and you repeat it either higher or lower in the scale. So before we jump into where we're seeing this in the soundtrack, a thing I like to use with my Gen Z students, which they don't know the song, but I feel like a lot of people are either millennials or older here, not trying to I think. Let's just go with that. I think. So you probably all or many of you probably know the song "It's Gonna Be Me" by NSYNC. Yes? Okay. So that song, every little thing I do never seems enough for you. You don't want to lose it, right? Okay. So the very first thing that we hear, we could consider that a motive. Every little thing I do, da 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 da, right? Okay. And so they actually do this pretty cool thing, is they repeat that immediately afterwards, but they just lower it. And so da 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 da. Can you guys hear that? That's the same idea. It's just being lowered, and then they start doing it again. So da 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 da. Right? It's the same thing 3 times in a row. Oh man, they must know something. Whoever wrote that tune must really know something about writing music that's catchy, right? They're using a motive, they're using it over and over, and they're just kind of changing it a little bit in order to make it, not hear like the same thing over and over. Because I mean, think about if they just kind of continued that. Like that would be kind of boring, right? That would be too much. That wouldn't be a hit song, right? But the same thing, we see those same things happening in the Mega Man 2 soundtrack, okay? Because writing a good melody, it doesn't matter if we're talking about In Sync or if we're talking about Mega Man 2, it's still writing a good melody, right? The concept is still the same. So let's first talk about repeating motives. And this is one of those things where I sometimes feel like it's so obvious. It's obvious to me to talk about, but then I'll work with a student or especially jazz improvisers, especially them. No offense to them. Love them. I have 2 degrees in jazz. I can say that. I can say it. Okay. So, lovingly, a lot of times when people improvise or when they first start writing melodies, they'll start with an idea, and then they'll immediately go to a new idea, and then they'll immediately go to a new idea, and they keep abandoning these ideas. And I always say to them, can you show me some music that does that? Because I don't, show me something you like that keeps changing keeps abandoning an idea and then moving on to a new one, right? So we can see here, and maybe some of you have already started to jump to the conclusion, but we have these motives in Dr. Wily's castle. Let's briefly listen to this for a second. And this is the first one. We're going to hear this several times. You'll see it. Okay. Let's listen to a little bit of Dr. Wily's castle, which I feel like it's my favorite tune from the soundtrack. I feel like it's probably a lot of people's favorite tune. Anyway, check it out. Okay, cool. So that's all we're looking at right now. But let's see. Okay, that's a motive. Little short musical idea. Now look at how many times that's repeated. Right? We keep seeing that motive over and over and over. Now let's see what else they do here, because I bet you that's not the only one. Oh, okay. So da 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 da. Right? It's the same it's the same motive, right? The rhythm is the same. The melody is almost the same. It's very, very close, right? Well, wait a minute. Do they do it anymore? Oh, geez. Okay. Well, they do it some more. Da ba da 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 ba da da da. Right? Okay. So repeating these ideas, and actually, you could even you could argue that this last one, da da, is very similar to da da da. You could make an argument, right? It's basically the same. It happens in the same rhythmic place. It's also this ascending figure. It just happens in a different spot. So you could make an argument. So let's listen to that one more time. Now that we know what we're hearing, that we're hearing these repeated motives or motifs over and over. Make sense? Yeah. So that's the thing. And it's I always feel silly sometimes mentioning it, but it's no, you really should think this way. If you're writing a melody and you keep abandoning ideas, there's something to be said for reusing something that you already wrote. Okay? So let's see. We talked a little bit about this sequence thing too, right? So let's talk about another tune where there's a sequence. So this is Quick Man. Back to Quick Man. Told you it would come back. Okay, so if we have this guy. So let's jump back to, let's remind ourselves what this song sounds like. Let's see if they'll let me just play it. No, of course not. No, I have to use this button to do it. Like, I'm just trying to literally press the play button, and it's like, no. Okay, here we go. C section. All right, so here's the C section. Let's listen to it. Okay, cool. So that's the C section. So, da 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 da. Right? There's our idea. Now, do we see that again? Yeah. But look at it. It starts a little bit higher. Da, 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 da. Right? Same idea. We're using it in sequence, right? We're taking the idea, we're playing it again, but we're just moving it a little higher. We could also move it a little lower. It doesn't really matter, but that's a great thing to know. If you have an idea, just like we saw with every little thing I do, right? If we have a good idea, why are we abandoning it? Let's reuse it. Let's drop it down or move it up, and it's going to work really nicely. So let's see. Is there any other sequence in here? Yeah, there is. So right here, da 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 da, and then immediately after, da 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 da. Right? Pretty cool, right? Okay, so let's listen back to, now we know that basically this whole melody, this section of this very famous tune, is two ideas, or there's other stuff going on too, but it's largely these two ideas, right? So let's listen. Cool? Yeah, so cool. Great tune. Okay, cool. So, to write a Mega Man 2 song, so this is kind of my conclusion, just to remind ourselves, I need form with three distinct sections, essentially three distinct sections. Sometimes some of the tunes have like four. Heatman only has two for some reason, but it's usually three distinct sections. That's kind of the main thing. And then Wily's Castle has like six or something. But of course, it's like the end of the game. Of course, we're going to put more there. So form, three distinct sections. We want textural changes in each of those sections, because those textural changes are what's going to help create that intrigue. It's going to help it feel better when it loops back around. If we have the same texture the entire time, if it's homogeneous, it's going to be real boring real quick, right? That was honestly a lesson I learned after doing the first game I wrote. I didn't think about that the first game I wrote. so don't go listen to that game. No, it's pretty good. I think a lot of it still holds up. It's okay. Anyway, okay, so then we want syncopated, remember syncopation, playing on the offbeat. We want syncopated bass lines and melodies. We want harmony chords, right, with some surprises. We don't just want boring old diatonic chords the entire time. It's okay, but we can make it more interesting. Or sometimes like diatonic chords in one section and chromatic chords in another section, like contrast, right? We want to have catchy melodies using repetition and sequences, okay? So I thank you all for coming. You can follow me at Music on the D-Lo on YouTube, Blue Sky, and Instagram. But I'm open to questions. If people have questions, I am happy to answer any questions you may have about this or other video game music or what have you. Yes. Yeah. Sure. I have not seen Rent. I've played other musicals, but I haven't seen Rent. I only know like a couple of the famous songs. Uh-huh. I would imagine it probably is. If there are two, so you're probably hearing, if it's at the end, I assume it's at the end of an act, whether it's act 1 or 2. And usually in a lot of those types of things, there's going to be, there's a specific word for it. I wish I was more of a musical theater person. But you're hearing a lot of different melodies, kind of contrapuntally in a way, like with each other. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, if they're all singing different notes, you're going to wind up with harmony. Definitely. Because if and technically, for those of you who are music theorists in here, yes, if you have people all singing the same notes, that can also be harmony. Whether it's octaves or unison, that is a version of harmony. I don't want anybody in my comments, you know. Okay, but but usually, yes, if you have people singing different notes, just kind of like when we saw on Woodman, when it said the chord and it said these three notes like E, G sharp, B. If somebody's singing E, somebody's singing G sharp, and somebody's singing B, you're going to have harmony. Even if you just had somebody singing E and somebody singing G sharp, you'd have harmony, right? So if you have a bunch of people singing and they're all singing different parts, you're going to wind up with some harmony. But there's a specific term, I know what you're talking about, and there's a specific term for it, and I just can't think of it right now. Any other questions? Oh, here, have a book. Have a MAGFest Pog. Or MAGFest Pog? I don't know what these are, but here, you can have a Pog. If that does something for you, that's awesome. I don't know that it does anything for you, but have a Pog. Any other questions? Who wants to earn a Pog? Remember Pogs? Now they're back in elf form. Okay. Okay. Kind of funny. So my friend was writing for a company. He really wasn't much. He really wasn't a musician, and he was writing music for a video game company that he that was like one of his dreams at the time. And he just started getting busy with other work, and so he reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, we're working on this game. The game is called Adventurer Manager. It's on Steam if anybody's interested. It's called Adventurer Manager." I'm happy to talk about other stuff I've done too. But anyway, Adventurer Manager, he was writing that, and then he's like, "Hey man, like if you could just like write some of the stuff, like I'll still do all the orchestration and everything. If you could just write it." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll write some of the tunes." And then like a couple weeks later, "Hey man, I don't think I really have as much time as I did. You know, would you be able to like do some more of the stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then like a couple weeks later, he's like, "Man, I don't got any time. I just can't do anything." So that's kind of how I broke into it. And then after that game, I did another game that I'm prouder of. It was called The Wind and Wilting Blossom. It's also on Steam, and with a lot of the same people, and that's kind of how I jumped into that. You know. Any other questions? Oh, have a Pog when you want. Come on and have a Pog. Anybody else? Any other questions? Thank you. Yes. Sure. So I would say, number one, I'd start with looking online, like looking on YouTube for people who have done analysis. If you're like interested in like specifically like say Final Fantasy analysis or something like that, which is where my heart is. I'm in my Moogle shirt right now. I have some stuff up there, but who's really great is 8-Bit Music Theory. He does a really nice job explaining a lot of this stuff. And there's other wonderful people too. You start with the people who are like that. And I don't know if there are any other things going on this weekend, but or send me a message on Instagram or something, and I'll be happy to guide you if I can. Any other questions? Yes, and I'm happy to hang out here for a few minutes if we need be. Yes. Yes. In here? In advanced music theory technique? Yes. Mm-hmm. I like to, honestly, when I teach, I do a lot of the same stuff that I do here, and I kind of like my my big question with a lot of the more advanced things is kind of like, well, what could it have been? Kind of like how we looked at, like, if we remove syncopation or if we remove the chromatic harmony, like, what could it have been? Folks, it is 11 o'clock. I need to stop and let other people in so they can set up. If you would like to chat with me some more, I'm happy to do so. I'm happy to hang and give away pogs for those of you who want one. But thank you again so much for coming. I really appreciate you all being here on Saturday night of MAGFest. Hope you have a great fest.